point of development. But tonight, before looking toward the future, we reflect on the past and pay tribute to those who once traded in their team colors. Hey Kid, Willie Mays, Stan the Man Musium, and Jackie. Tonight, the Arizona Fall League honors our brave men and women. The Military Appreciation Game, next on MLB Network. On a beautiful fall evening in Surprise, Arizona, the Arizona Fall League honors the brave men and women serving in the armed forces. It's the Military Appreciation Game as the Peoria Javelinas take on the Surprise Saguaros from Surprise Stadium. For over 25 years, the AFL has been the last stop before Major League careers begin. And throughout the last quarter century, the AFL has seen tons of superstars in the making. 60% of the players who play out here eventually make it to the big leagues. And as Major League Baseball gets set to hand out the awards next week, the tallies you see on this list are sure to rise, only adding to the prestige of this great league. And with that, we say hello again, everybody, and welcome inside the broadcast booth. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, and Jim Callis of MLBpipeline.com. First of all, I speak for everyone when I say thank you to the brave men and women serving this country, and we're privileged to join the AFL in observance of this holiday. In terms of the baseball that we'll see here tonight, and we have seen throughout the years in this league, Joe, guys that are out here honing their skills know that the major leagues are not far off.
No, and when you think of the longtime GM and his idea, Roland Heyman, to start this fall league, it really was the idea about being a graduate school, but it has become much more than that the past couple of years. It has become a pathway to stardom. And when you're talking about stardom and talking about some of the game's best players, how about the best player right out of the gate? Mike Trout, Rookie of the Year, MVP award twice, and a guy who plays the game with more intensity than anyone. Another MVP, of course, Bryce Harper from the other side of the plate, just punishing the ball into the right field seats. And Chris Bryant, who made quite an impression in the Arizona Fall League, and of course another MVP. And I guess the question is, guys, after all of these great players, who is next?
It's a question that we ask just about every year, and Jim, I will ask you, and perhaps the answer is Peoria, because for as much talent as there is throughout this entire Arizona Fall League, this and every year, Peoria's got a couple of guys who could be game changers for their respective organizations.
Definitely. I don't think there's any question that the Javelinas have the most prospect-stacked team in the league, and it starts with Ronald Acuna, the Braves outfielder, who's the best prospect in the AFL. He might be the best prospect in all of baseball. His power is his signature tool, but this is a rare guy when you talk about a five-tool player who has a chance to have plus or better tools across the board. He can play anywhere in the outfield. He can do it all. And then you have Luis Urias, the Padres middle infielder. He might be the best pure hitter, not just in the Arizona Fall League, in the entire minor league. In the home run here, he hit in the Fall Stars game. Power's not usually his game. He just has outstanding feel for the barrel, outstanding feel for the strike zone. I think we're looking at a future big league batting champion in Urias.
There are so many future award winners, I'm sure, throughout this Arizona Fall League. And when we come back, we will bring it to you. The Military Appreciation Game, lineups, and first pitch from Surprise next.
champions.
Two of the best prospects in the game, Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. Nolan Arenado with a solo home run. What a night for Nolan Arenado. Chris Bryant, worth the hype?
Absolutely.
Chris Bryant launches to left.
This is Sanchez hitting one well to left field, and just the tip of the iceberg as we welcome you back to the 2017 Arizona Fall League Military Appreciation Game here from Surprise Stadium in Surprise, Arizona, spring home of the Texas Rangers and the Kansas City Royals. Again, just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the talent that has come through this Arizona Fall League. And Joe, I'm glad we were able to get that graphic out in the open because with the awards coming on this week, we're going to be retiring those numbers. They are going to jump real quick.
Yes, for the most part, you're looking in the next couple of days adding to that hardware. When the rookies are announced, you've got Aaron Judge and Cody Bellinger that look like they're going to get the respective Rookie of the Years in the American and National League, and it just continues to be a collection of hardware. And what the gas pedal of just really accelerating the future of these players.
Yeah, and the names that are in this Peoria Javelinas lineup certainly going to be at the next level rather soon. Just top to bottom, this team, they are leading the Arizona Fall League in average, in home runs, runs, doubles, and triples. Power top to bottom, and that's part of the reason why they are in first place in the West with about a week left in this Arizona Fall League season. That is Tyler Davis. He gets the ball. 29 games, 17 starts in the regular season. In his last start, well, he went 4 innings. He got out here a little late, but just trying to get some work in, as many are.
Well, he's a right-hander that's 5'10", 185 pounds, and of course righties at that size have to be able to do a lot of different things with control.
Jonathan Davis takes the first pitch.
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't really have a pitch you're going to point to and say that's his signature pitch. He's got an out pitch. But what he does is he'll throw everything at you. He's got a 2-seamer and a 4-seam fastball. He'll sink him when or down. He'll throw the 4-seamer up in the zone, move it around, pitch to both sides. Even the slider, it's not a particularly sharp slider. What he can do is he can manipulate. He can vary the break, vary the velocity, so it serves as a bunch of different looks with the same pitch. His best offering is probably his changeup, deceptive pitch with fade. That's what he tries to put guys away with. Very successful when he got to Double-A this year.
And when scouts are looking at pitchers, you know, that are diminutive in size, he's 5 feet 10 inches. You know, they typically would give a much longer leash to a left-hander because having the ability to have a little bit more deception.
Blue Jays farmhand Jonathan Davis with a fly ball out toward left field. That's Michael O'Neill to put it away for out number 1.
So the righties that are, you know, 5'10", like Tim Lincecum, I think he was more closer to 5'9" and 155 pounds. They have to have something special, and of course Tim Lincecum with the 2 Cy Youngs most definitely did. But at this size and this type of stuff, he just has to continue to impress and be able to locate and change speeds, and he's been able to do that by managing games pretty well and keeping runners off base with an outstanding whip at .86.
Yeah, he was outstanding. You're talking about a guy who's a career 5.01 ERA in the minors, but in Double-A this year in 12 starts, 2.32.
Michael Chavis with a laser beam out to left field. Michael O'Neill had it for a second, but it popped out of the glove, and a hard hit base hit with 1 out here in this first inning. O'Neill gave it a good try out in left center field. Not sure if it popped out because of the ground or not. Maybe just a little loose leather.
Yeah, when you've got those outfield gloves that are around 12 to 13 inches long, sometimes you use that flexibility when it hits in the webbing, and it just kind of bent the glove back when it was right at the edge of the webbing. It's what kept that from being an outstanding play.
So the number 2 prospect in the Red Sox system is on at first for the number 10 prospect in the Braves system, according to MLBpipeline.com, as Austin Riley is down on the count 0-1 out of Memphis, Tennessee, a first-round pick in 2015. The 0-1 from Davis is in the dirt. No advance from Chavis over at first base. And Riley is one of many, not only for this Peoria team, which is well represented with Atlanta Braves farm hands, but for a farm system in Atlanta, which is certainly promising, Jim, on the whole.
Definitely. I think it's the best farm system in the game. Riley's a guy who gets overshadowed a little bit by Ronald Acuna and some of the pitchers in the system. Having a great fall league. He's leading the league with 6 homers, 12 extra base hits, 44 total bases. Has that profile power you're looking for at third base. And it's interesting, when he was a high school prospect in Mississippi, he was actually more of a pitcher. Going into his senior year, he was going to get drafted as a pitcher. Stuff went down, and the Braves were sold on his bat. I think more teams probably did prefer him as a pitcher, but he still got $1.6 million for the bat, and he's hit 20 homers in each of the last 2 seasons.
But he goes down swinging there for out number 2 as Davis puts him away.
You know, some of the things we're talking about, that Riley not overpowering, but moves his fastball around with command, climbing the ladder up above the hands. Riley didn't have much of a chance with that. It's a pedestrian fastball in the low 90s, but kind of refreshing to see that a guy that not with a particular amount of velocity just moves his fastball very effortlessly around in the strike zone.
It takes some guts if you're throwing 90 to throw that up in the zone, because if you miss a little bit or the guy catches up to it, you're in trouble. But kind of fun to watch. You know, again, we're not saying this guy's a top prospect who's going to be in the big leagues tomorrow like some of these guys are, but it's kind of fun to watch a guy kind of survive with his wits out on the mound.
Chopper to second base off the bat of Eric Falia, and he is retired for out number 3. Davis works around the 1-out single to Chase. For all intents and purposes, a clean first. We go to the bottom of the first here in Surprise.
Every day.
Some kids taking in the military appreciation game here in Surprise. To the bottom of the first we go, and here's a look at the Surprise Saguaros lineup put forth by their manager and former big leaguer Spike Owen. Talked before about how Peoria's lineup is stacked. Well, not so bad on this side either. A .280 average is second in the Arizona Fall League. They're third in home runs with 18. So that's what the Surprise Saguaros have tonight as they look to keep their hopes alive for the championship game next week. But a tough tack tonight against the number 9 prospect in the Braves system, Max Fried.
Yeah, Max Fried, a great pitcher's build at 6'4", 200 pounds. When right, has an outstanding breaking ball. Had a couple of stints with the big club this year.
You know, you can see from those numbers it wasn't the most successful statistical year. But this guy's stuff, you could see why he was the number 7 overall pick in the 2012 draft. At that time, scouts thought he had the best stuff of any high school lefty since Clayton Kershaw. The curve, we'll see the curve tonight. It's a top-to-bottom curve with a lot of depth to it. He can run the fastball up to 95, 96. He'll usually pitch at 92, 94.
These first 2 pitches have been outstanding.
Yeah, and if he just gets a little bit more consistent, the raw material's there. He had Tommy John surgery, got traded to the Braves, but he's on his way back. And I think next year, if he just improves control a little bit, we'll see more of him in the big leagues.
These fastballs overmatching Mercado, and you're talking about somebody at 6'4", looks like he does a beautiful job of throwing the ball downhill with explosiveness. I mean, it is on the hitter. It's not always about velocity, but it is the effective velocity to where it just feels like the ball is on top of the hitter in a hurry, and Fried looks to be one of those guys.
Ahead in the count, a ball and 2 strikes to the number 18 prospect in the Cardinals system, according to MLBpipeline.com. Oscar Mercado sees a 1-2 pitch, and it's smothered by Alex Jackson. A closer look at the scouting report for Max Fried.
Yeah, like we were saying, I mean, it's plus fastball. The curve can be better than plus at times. He's working on the changeup, trying to get more consistent with that. Like I said, I think it really comes down to throwing strikes for him. He was part of the same high school team at Harvard Westlake out in California as Lucas Giolito. They were both first-round picks in 2012. Giolito had Tommy John surgery almost right away. Neither guy has lived up to expectations yet, but the stuff is still there. Giolito was very impressive at times with the White Sox down the stretch. And I think they both have a chance to be very good big league pitchers.
That is his first strikeout. It should come as no surprise as he leads the Arizona Fall League in strikeouts. That was his 30th out here in Arizona, so he keeps piling up those strikeout numbers. And another look at strike 3.
Boy, he just goes, here you go, 3-2, hit it. And, oftentimes hitters shorten up 3-2, and he just blew it by him.
Now Michael O'Neill takes a look at that one, which goes all the way to the backstop. A ball and no strikes to O'Neill. O'Neill, part of the Texas Rangers organization, signed by the Rangers as a minor league free agent in February of this year. First 4 pro seasons in the Yankees system, and the nephew of former big leaguer Paul O'Neill.
I really liked him coming out of the draft, Paul. He was at Michigan. We'll get back to that in a second. A quick line out. But I really liked him at the draft. He was a multi-tool player. You don't see a lot of college guys who are, maybe 4 or 5 tools. But like his uncle, he's known for being very hard on himself. And I think in some ways, maybe getting out of the Yankees organization where you don't have that legacy there made things easier for him, because scouts I talked to thought he was more relaxed this year, and you start to see those tools play more.
So 2 outs on 9 pitches. That will bring up Kevin Padlo out of the Tampa Bay Rays organization as Fried delivers.
Yeah, I remember playing against Paul O'Neill. He could go 8 for 10, and the 2 outs would be absolute scalding line drives, and the frustration would have him destroying the water cooler out of those two line drives. Just a perfectionist and an incredible competitor. Wound tight.
Now for Fried, his last start was November 3rd against Glendale. 4 innings, 5 hits, 4 earned runs, and by far the worst start that he has had this season in the Arizona Fall League, as this one is chopped foul, still 0-2. 5 earned runs allowed in 5 games, but 4 in his last start, and you wonder what kind of quote-unquote freedoms he'll be throwing with tonight, knowing that this is his last start out here in the AFL.
Well, from what we've heard, both of these starting pitchers figure to go around somewhere between 50 and 60 pitches, so they need to be economical, of course, very important. Wow, this fastball explodes.
Couple of strikeouts in the inning for Fried. 3 up and 3 down through 1. Scoreless in Surprise. Welcome back. That's Luis Salazar, Peoria's manager. Just finished his second season at AA Mississippi in the Southern League. The previous 5 seasons at High A Lynchburg. And throughout the night here in Arizona, we'll hear a lot about the scouting grades. Jim Callis, how are they defined?
Well, they use a 20 to 80 scale where 50 represents average. Most of your big leaguers are going to fall in that 50 or 60 spectrum, at least with their signature tools. To kind of try and translate those, with the home run explosion this year, average power probably be 20 home runs. Average fastball velocity seems like it's about 92, 93. That number seems to keep climbing. And you break down, a hitter, you'll do hitting ability, power, speed, arm strength, and fielding ability. And then for pitchers, you break down the various pitches in their control.
And a guy who certainly has a lot of the high numbers, the 60s and the 70s on his scouting report, is Ronald Acuna, who is the number 5 overall prospect according to MLBpipeline.com, top prospect in the Braves system, and number 3 outfield prospect according to the good folks at Pipeline. He sees an 0-1 from Davis and drills this one out to deep left field. Back is O'Neill, and that one is gone. Ronald Acuna with a leadoff home run here in the second. It's 1-0 Peoria.
Well, his power, I think, is his most, at least he has all the tools, but that's the most fun tool to watch, just with that explosive bat speed, power to all fields, and that. I mean, you saw when he got hold of the ball and just crushed it. But I like how high that one went, too, because that was about as high as it was far.
Well, he is the guy that the Braves are very excited about, and down in Dixie that the fans are going to have a lot to rally around because he can absolutely compress the ball.
As does Josh Naylor towards center field, and over the head of Oscar Mercado. It one-hops the wall. Naylor into second base, and back-to-back extra base hits for Peoria.
I think that ball was hit harder than the ball Acuna hit, and that one went over the fence, but that ball to center field was absolutely scalded by Naylor. Gets those arms extended, and I don't know what kind of position is going to be in his future, but he can rake.
That's been kind of his reputation going back to high school. He got some Prince Fielder comps for the power and for the body there. I think positionally you're looking, Joe, at maybe first base, and it might be DH, but he can, a lot of power. That's his tool. That's what got him drafted in the first round. This Peoria lineup, we talked about how loaded it was. It's got 3 top 100 prospects. It's got 3 first-round picks and a supplemental first round. There's just talent all the way up and down the lineup, and Tyler Davis has run into it. His margin for error is not big, and they're making him pay this inning.
And speaking of first-round picks, Alex Jackson is one of those. He takes a ball from Tyler Davis, a first-round pick, number 6 overall back in 2014, out of Rancho Bernardo High School in San Diego, California. And a hitter's count here, 2 balls and no strikes with a run home, and Naylor on at second after the double. Towards short. 1 away.
We talked about how this lineup is loaded, and Jim, you were talking about the best pure hitter here in the Fall League. Luis Urias is. Davis hasn't even had a chance to face him. He's hitting in the 9-hole tonight. But that guy right there, Ronald Acuna, really figures to play a big part early for the Braves, the Atlanta Braves, the big club. And that may be the guy who we were talking about right off the top, who is next.
And now it is Lourdes Gurriel. Takes a called strike. He, of course, defected Cuba with his brother Yuli, who a week or so ago won a World Series with the Houston Astros. They did so after the Caribbean Series in February of 2016. The 0-1 inside.
Yuli went creative with the hair, so Lourdes had to go creative with the beard.
That's right. But I don't know how creative you can get with a beard that would match what's going on with Yuli's hairdo up top. And believe me, I'm not a guy that can make hair jokes. It is a 1-1.
I think you just did.
Kind of, sort of did. Did he go? They say no as they check with the first base umpire, Roberto Ortiz. 2 balls and a strike. Gurriel leads the Arizona Fall League in doubles with 6.
Still trying to figure out what he's going to be, Paul. I mean, this was a guy who was a highly touted defector who signed for a $22 million contract. Supposed to be a solid hitter for both power and average. and wound up hitting 229 this year. Really struggled. So the Blue Jays are still trying to figure out exactly what they have in him, hoping that the Arizona Fall League can maybe serve as a springboard to a better 2018, and they can get the guy they thought they were paying for.
Going back to the history of the Toronto Blue Jays, even back when Bobby Cox was their general manager, they've had a great long line of success with being able to help get Latin players acclimated. And sometimes it's not just really the tools, but just the culture change and getting acclimated. And the Toronto Blue Jays over the years really have done that as well as any organization has.
And that's a great point, Joe, because, when you're talking about Cubans, it's not just you're facing better pitching on a more consistent basis than you ever have when you're in Cuba. The pitching's gone down in Cuba. It's not what it was, say, 20 years ago. They still have position players. But you're talking about a total lifestyle change. You probably left some family members behind. You have more money than, $22 million is more money than anybody could possibly imagine in Cuba. And it's not just about baseball. So I think that's a good point, and that's why you have to kind of cut these guys some slack and maybe not read too much into their first-year performance and see where they go from there.
Chopped up the middle, a base hit. Naylor is held up at third by Luis Salazar, and advancing, or trying to at least, over to second base is Gurriel. He's in before the throw, and Peoria in business with 2 in scoring position and 1 out.
Just a bit of a fundamental error by Mercado with the trajectory of the throw. You had the cutoff man right by the pitcher's mound, and being able to read this was Gurriel. Seeing how high the throw was, he just read the trajectory of the throw and snuck right into second base. And 90 more feet, and you see how high that was. A lot of rainbow on it was allowing Gurriel to get into scoring position.
And Mercado is a former shortstop. This is his first year as a full-time center fielder. Some inexperience showing there. And also, you got to know your runner. Josh Naylor, speed. He's talking about that scouting scale. Josh Naylor is a 20 runner. He's a well below average runner. He's probably not scoring on that ball. You didn't have to try to throw him out at the plate because he wasn't going to go.
And this is Urias down the left field line, and a fair ball. Naylor scores easily, and in from second is Gurriel. A 2-run single for Luis Urias, and it's a 3-0 Peoria lead.
These guys can hack.
Well, Joe, that's why they had the best hitter in the league batting ninth, so they have him come up with 2 guys on base. Perfect situation for him. You get no respite facing this lineup.
Well, other than losing some at bats, your number 9 hitter oftentimes is kind of like your second leadoff hitter, where number 9 kind of flows into 1 and 2. And well, we were talking about the beard. Yuli and Lourdes got the hair going too.
And now Davis with a long fly ball toward left, and it's off the wall. Urias will head into second on the double by Jonathan Davis. Well, they are getting to Tyler Davis here in this second inning.
And it's not going to get any easier because now he gets to face one of the best power prospects in the minors, and Michael Chavis, the AFL home run leader, and Austin Riley is on deck. And if the inning keeps going, Eric Falia is second in the league in hitting and first in on base and slugging. So it just never ends with this lineup.
That is the 3rd extra base hit of the inning. It began with a Ronald Acuna solo home run and then the double by Naylor. And now after back-to-back singles, that double by Jonathan Davis. And a meeting on the mound as Mitch Stetter comes out to try to settle him down.
Boy, that looks like some live agriculture that's growing on top of Gurriel's head right there.
They're going with the palm tree haircut, I guess is what it's called. Or the troll doll, or something of that nature. Well, if you've got it, flaunt it.
Yep.
I certainly can't do that at this point.
Neither can I. Even if I could, I wouldn't be allowed to. Michael Chavis fouls one off his foot, and it's 0-1. All right, so from I think it's Us Weekly, right? Who wore it better? The age difference with those two. Of course, Yuli now a World Series champion with the Houston Astros. And with those paydays, I wonder who picks up the tab when they share a meal.
I don't know. I think before they were contemplating on coming from Cuba to play, it looked like they cut each other's hair. They've got that down to a pat.
They certainly do.
I covered their dad on the Cuban national team in the first Olympics where baseball was an official gold medal sport in 1992. The father, also Lourdes, a first baseman, power hitting first baseman, did not have that kind of hair. So we did not see that in 1992.
Mercado in his tracks in center, loads up and throws from center field. It will be cut off. It's a sacrifice fly for Chavis and a 4-0 lead for Peoria.
Yeah, not only are these guys just loaded offensively, but there's just an energy that they come to the plate ready to hack. And we talked about Davis off the top not being overpowering and having to be very, very precise with his pitches. They have been ambushing him early in the count. So if you're going to throw your setup pitch, throw it on the first pitch.
And now Austin Riley takes a breaking ball low.
When you see these type of swings, you know that they have you timed up velocity wise, so that's when you have to start adding and subtracting, and not just by going to the breaking ball, but changing speeds. And I think with so much of it being about velocity, not necessarily in Davis's case, but you have to be able to try easier and take velocity off the ball to upset the timing of a lot of these hitters.
And his changeup's supposed to be his best pitch, but he's just been getting hammered this inning.
Down in the count, 2 balls and no strikes to the 8th hitter of this inning as Tenuta begins to loosen in the Surprise bullpen. Again, for Davis, 8 innings pitched so far in the Arizona Fall League. However, this is his 4th start. A couple of innings in each of his first 2 outings and 4 in his last, and it was just a matter of him getting out here a little late, working his way and his pitch count up. But with a week or so left, and something that we should certainly point out is that yes, you want to come out here and have success and hit a handful of home runs, drive in 15, 20 RBIs in the 40 some odd games that you may play out here, but at the same time, and this could be a situation where it's just about getting some work in. 2 balls and 2 strikes to Riley.
That looked to be the changeup that you were talking about there, Jim.
Yeah, that was one of his better pitches. We talked last inning about how he struck Riley up with a high fastball. Let's see if he changes eye level and tries to go back and do that again.
He tried to go with the same tandem that he got him with last time. Let's look at the changeup, and this is why I think it is so important. He's way out in front that you have to be able to subtract when you start to get hit, because when you're getting hit, that means the hitter is on time.
Riley drills one left center, and they collide in right center, that is, and down is Lamonte Wade and Oscar Mercado as the ball is still live out there in right center field, and those guys both went down hard and are writhing in pain. Riley will come all the way around to score, but that's the least of the concern right now, as both men are still shaken up. He caught that.
That's a catch.
I didn't see the ball come out. I was trying to figure out what was going on.
Well, Riley kept running, and he came in to score, but the first base umpire, Roberto Ortiz, went out and just did single it. It was, in fact, a catch. So, my mistake. But again, eyes on the 2 players and their health is what's paramount right here, as a trainer focused on Oscar Mercado and another. Face the top third of the Peoria order. Jonathan Davis, Michael Chavis, and Austin Riley trying to keep it at that 6-0 deficit here in the fourth inning. Davis doubled in his last plate appearance, and he takes a called strike, 0-2.
Well, he's got the 0-2 count here, and strikes are really the key for Tyler Ferguson because he's got a big-time arm. We were talking about Tyler Davis, who started the game being a guy who didn't have big-time stuff and was precise with his pitches. Ferguson's the exact opposite. He was the number 4 starter on Vanderbilt's College World Series championship team in 2014. He was expected to move in the rotation in 2015 with first-round picks Tyler Beatty, Walker Buehler, and Carson Fulmer. Tyler Beatty was on that 2014 club, all first-round picks. He's 93-97. It's a plus slider when it's on, but he just hasn't thrown strikes, which is why you saw that 6.61 ERA he had this year, why he lasted till the 6th round of the 2015 draft. But he's got a first-round caliber arm when he's on.
And Jim, wouldn't you think someone coming from such an outstanding developmental baseball program like Vanderbilt that he would be able to just hit the ground running in pro ball?
You would think that. I think what worked against him is Vanderbilt was coming off the College World Series championship. They went back to the College World Series finals in 2015. And what happens with a lot of these highly competitive college programs is he wasn't coming out and throwing strikes, so he just didn't pitch much in 2015 after the first month of the season. So he lost his role, and the Rangers gambled on him, hoping that they could straighten him out, and they're still trying to figure that out.
I was drafted as a high school kid, and then later as a college one out of the University of Arizona, and I just felt as a college pitcher that I just had to jump on so many people in the minor leagues, not only coming from a great program, but just the competitiveness and organizational skills.
Yeah, well, another thing that's tough too, if you think about it, if you sign out of high school, you're not just jumping into pro ball. You're also living on your own for the first time too.
Right.
You didn't get those 3 years in college where
Just
you kind of figured
maturity.
some of those things out.
Well, a couple of quick outs on a hot shot over to third off the bat of Jonathan Davis, and then Chavis is retired on the chopper toward short. So 2 outs and nobody on for Austin Riley, who struck out in the first and flew out to right center field back in the 2nd inning, and that was the 3rd out of that 2nd inning. The play in which Oscar Mercado, the center fielder, and Lamont Wade collided in right center field. And if you're just joining us, Mercado is clearly still in the game, but Wade has been taken to the hospital with a head and neck concern. Trainer Chris Johnson left with him. Wade was conscious the whole time. That is the latest that we have on that. Again, our thoughts are with Lamont Wade as he left this game after that 2nd inning. That put a capper on a 4-run frame for Peoria, the best offense here in the Arizona Fall League, leading the AFL in average, homers, runs, doubles, and triples, and all of that offense on display here tonight as they have opened up a 6-run lead here in the 4th. They also lead the West, 14-11 coming in, so a pretty likely chance that we'll see them again next Saturday afternoon in Scottsdale for the 2017 AFL Championship game, as Riley is caught looking. Struck out for the 2nd time tonight. Pretty impressive inning for Ferguson. A couple of ground outs and a strikeout through 3.5. 6-0.
Network.
Back here in Surprise, Arizona, 2017 Arizona Fall League Military Appreciation Game. Glad that you're with us. As we just saw Max Fried in the dugout, his day is done after 3 pretty impressive innings.
Very impressive innings. We saw the stuff. It was an explosive fastball, a couple of good breaking balls, and a couple of things he needs to work on. But one thing he did do is he threw the ball over the plate, showed a nasty pickoff move, and if this is his last start, he goes into the offseason with a pretty good feeling about how things are going.
Big part of that Atlanta Braves farm system and pitching staff of the future as Jerry Keel takes over on the mound and delivers a called strike to Oscar Mercado. 1, 2, and 3 due up for Surprise against Keel. Michael O'Neill and Kevin Padlow to follow. 23 games and 19 starts for Keel this year, and he surrenders a base hit to Mercado to lead things off in the 4th.
Keel's your basic, 4-pitch mix left-hander. I don't know if there's really something you'd again point to and say that's his signature pitch, but he throws strikes and he keeps the ball down, and he's had a lot of success. Got up to Double-A this year.
9th round pick in 2015 out of California State University Northridge.
He's good. You can see from the scouting report he's looking to keep you off balance. He's not going to blow the ball by you, but he's got a pair of breaking balls, one slower, one harder, and he can mix in that changeup to kind of survive against right-handers. And he had a lot of success this year, even Double-A at the end of the year, pitched well in 3 outings there.
And just looking at Keel's totals the last few years, in 2016, 89 strikeouts. This year, 124. Last year, 38 walks. This year, 32. And that was with 114 2/3 innings pitched in 2016 and about 12 more innings pitched in 2017. So the totals going up, and therefore the rates improving in terms of walks and strikeouts as well. He gets set to deal an 0-1 to Michael O'Neill, who lined out to second base in his only at-bat. But first, a check on Mercado over at first. And the 0-1 inside to O'Neill, who had his best offensive season in 2017. Hit .266, 15 home runs, 21 doubles, 41 RBIs, and it was 28 of 33 in stolen base opportunities.
It probably didn't feel like it, but getting released by the Yankees was probably the best thing for him because it just allowed him to reset everything. Like I mentioned his first time up, I mean, like his famous Uncle Paul, known for being a guy who's very hard on himself, and I just think there was a lot of pressure as a 3rd-round pick, and it's the Yankees, it's the organization your uncle was a star for, and relaxed a little bit more this year and started to show the tools that made him a 3rd-round pick out of Michigan a few years ago.
And a 2-1 with Mercado off of first, on the ground towards short. 1-2. A 6-4-3 double play. And just to tie a bow on your point, Jim, there were some quotes. Another look here at the 6-4-3 DP. He said, O'Neill that is, said that the Rangers gave me a huge opportunity to continue my career after some rocky times in New York. Very thankful for the opportunity to restart my career again at the best year of his career. And he said it's been nothing but positive things on the field, off the field, in the clubhouse, and the organization. Can't thank Texas enough. And again, this may go to a bigger discussion, a bigger point, but we seem to say this every year. Not only are these guys who are trying to climb up in their own organizations, but to some degree they're also auditioning for the other 29 teams in Major League Baseball, the other 29 organizations.
Well, that's the job of scouts in coverage of all these teams is to really have a workup, a write-up on every one of these players and the teams that they're playing for. You talk about the trade deadline as we do so much with MLB Network, and so often it involves a whole lot of minor league players going in one direction, and the Braves have certainly done a great job of collecting a lot of those those good minor league players. So there are write-ups on everyone, and you're always playing for someone in the minor leagues.
Speaking of being traded, Kevin Padlo, who just worked that walk, was traded with Corey Dickerson to the Rays for German Marquez and Jake McGee in January of 2016. So there's a number of players who get traded multiple times for sure and play for different organizations. But sometimes that first trade, Joe, I'm sure you can speak to this. You drafted by an organization, developed by an organization, and that first time you're not wearing that uniform anymore. It's a bit different.
Yeah, I did have that feeling, although it was a little different when my career with the St. Louis Cardinals ended by Joe Torre saying, "We are releasing you." So that's like back to the Apprentice. You're fired.
Right. Right. A 1-1 to Yanio Perez, the DH, who singled in his first at bat. Now lines one over the head of Acuna. It one hops over the wall. A ground rule double with 2 outs here in the fourth for Perez.
Well, I guess if Acuna was really Superman, he would have, like, I don't know, jumped 15 feet.
Yeah,
in the air
really,
and
make
caught
the play out there. Jeez.
It's about the only thing he hasn't been able to do tonight is fly.
Well, it's only the 4th inning.
Yeah, ball was absolutely blistered, and he's done that twice tonight. Showing some real bat speed and similar lift in that swing to Acuna as that ball went over his head.
Well, that's an interesting look. Second and third, 2 outs, bottom of the 4th inning. As Ilya Hernandez takes a called strike. Hernandez, a defensive, I guess offensive replacement. He came in for Lamont Wade, who was injured and left the game. Grounded into a double play back in the 2nd inning, did Hernandez. And now the 0-1.
Going back to 2011, Hernandez was one of the best international prospects on the market. He was a big-time bonus baby, $3.05 million out of the Dominican Republic. But his problem in the minor leagues is he's been so aggressive. He just hasn't been able to realize his power potential, which was really the tool that caught everybody's attention. Started to put things together this year. Was playing pretty well, and he wound up having a groin injury that cost him the final 3 months of the season. So he's yet another example of the fall league giving some needed playing time to people who missed it with injury during the season.
And again, this could be a bigger discussion than what we've got time for right now, but there are so many questions surrounding the Kansas City Royals right now and the future of guys like Hosmer and Moustakas and Escobar and the like. How is their farm system, kind of a Cliff Notes version of how the Royals farm system is? It's
fairly thinned out. Their last few drafts haven't been as successful as they've hoped. They used players in trades to go get a Ben Zobrist, to go get a Johnny Cueto. Nobody in Kansas City regrets those moves. But it's not like at the beginning of the decade when they had this loaded farm system that had 9 guys on our top 100 when I was at Baseball America. This rebuilding process is going to take a while if all those guys do leave, because they don't have guys that can just plug right in.
You know, and you talked about Hernandez being that free swinging guy that is trying to control the strike zone more, and he is very aggressive, and when he's able to dial in that strike zone and really make the pitcher work and not go outside the strike zone and get into favorable hitters' counts, that's when he'll really take off.
And the Royals could really use that. You know, like I said, I mean, he hit .317 with power in 46 games this year. It was by far the best season he'd had since signing that contract. And then had the groin injury that kind of grounded to a halt. So they're hoping he can pick up where he left off next year and maybe start to move a little bit quicker.
Padlo away from third, Perez off of second. A 3-2 pitch to Hernandez. Fights that one off to stay alive.
That one really traveled. He pretty much took that one right out of the catcher's mitt. Hitters tend to become more aggressive on full counts. They do not want to take a called third, so sometimes you'll see them expand the strike zone. But he spoiled a pretty good pitch that could have gone either way.
No swing in the dirt, and the base is now loaded with 2 outs for Chris Paul. So a big chance here for the Surprise Saguaros to cut into what is now a 6-0 lead in the bottom of the 4th inning. Second walk of the inning here for Keel, who took over for Max Fried, who issued only 1 in his 3 innings of work.
And he's really only retired 1 of the 5 batters he's
in Surprise here in the 4th.
Every day.
Welcome back to Surprise. The Atlanta Braves at the top of the heap when it comes to top 10 farm systems in Major League Baseball, according to Jim Callis. And Jim, this Braves team going through a rebuild, but it seems as though, judging by this list, they've got the pieces to be good in pretty short order.
They do. We've seen one of them tonight. Ronald Acuna alone is going to get you a pretty good ranking because he can do it all. But the thing that really stands out with them is their pitching. You know, we saw Max Fried, who looked pretty impressive tonight, and I'm looking at our MLB pipeline top 30. And Max Fried's well down the list of pitching prospects in the system because they're so deep. But you got Colby Allard, Kyle Wright, Mike Soroka, Ian Anderson, Luis Gohara, Joey Wentz, then Max Fried. You know, and you have guys, you know, Kyle Muller, Tuki Toussaint, who we may see later tonight or next Saturday in the championship game. But it may seem hard to believe, as good as Ronald Acuna has looked tonight, but I really think pitching is the strength of the Braves farm system.
What a surprise.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we heard that before.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of, another one of their farm hands, as Corbin Klaus deals here to Edmundo Sosa, who walked and was picked off in the 3rd. He bats here with runners on the corners, 2 in and 2 out. And that one outside, 3-0 from Klaus.
Well, the reports on Klaus are one of those guys that has that good heavy sinker. Of course, he, behind 3-0, needs to get command of the strike zone, bring the ball up a little bit, but has a very good ground ball rate.
And a 4-pitch walk to Sosa. So for the second time this inning, Surprise has the bases loaded.
And what's interesting to me about Klaus, Joe, is he doesn't, again, we don't have a gun, so we're not seeing velos here. He's not a guy who throws hard. He's more of a sinker slider guy, but he struck out 125 guys in 87 minor league innings so far. And not bad for, 27th round pick out of Davenport University. He'll have to prove himself as he moves up the ladder. But even when he got to Double-A this year for 16 appearances in the second half of the season, he struck out 26 in 22 innings.
You know, in a strange way, I think it's refreshing that we don't have a gun tonight. And one of the reasons is that you look at the guy out there on the hill and the guy at the plate with the Sachs Jam, that the hitter will tell you by how he reacts to the fastball of the pitcher. And, you know, you don't need a gun to interpret that. And Max Fried was a perfect example of that. When he threw his fastball over the plate, it was just by hitters.
No, you're right. You know, when we talk, and I'm guilty of this, when I write about guys, I always mention their velocity. But, you know,
well, that's what everybody wants to hear.
And they want to know how hard they throw. But it's really, it's not just velocity. It's movement. It's command. It's the angle. And playing on the fastball is just one small piece of it. I mean, and even now we have the TrackMan data. You get how many RPMs, which is how much, the more RPMs, the more the ball seems to ride and give that illusion that it's rising. So I'm always conflicted about that. I'm always talking or writing about how hard guys throw, but it's just one piece of the fastball.
Yeah, and I also think it's counterproductive, you know, sometimes for organizations to have a pitcher that's very successful with a bunch of other pitches and throws with good velocity, but says your spin rate on your cross-seam fastball is really not what it should be. So what is the guy going to do? Just completely max out and lose all of his other pitches at the expense of trying to throw harder than what is his own maximum already?
Well, Klaus has lost the strike zone right here. A 4-pitch walk and now a 3-0 pitch coming to Dini. And that is low and in, ball 4. So he walks in a run. And it is now 6-3.
Santa Claus giving out gifts here.
Wow. You got here early today.
That's good. I like that one.
That was just off the cuff.
Oh my goodness! Really?
See that? Taking in a little baseball before he heads north.
Mm-hmm. I think he was just shaking his head because he heard that remark of Jim Callis. That was a groaner for him.
Jimmy, I like it. Okay.
I'm just trying to add
if
something
we're
here.
scoring at home, I liked it.
He's putting meat on the bone.
And now Alex Jackson goes out to talk with Klaus, who has yet to throw a strike in the 9 pitches. That little lollipop getting set. Likes the Giants.
And he likes the Mariners.
Maybe texting his friends. You know what? Turn off the military appreciation game. Those guys in the booth, they have lost it. Don't even bother. But you might not want to turn off just yet. Nicky Lopez up, bases loaded, 2 outs. That one in the dirt.
Boy, he's really out of sorts with his delivery, and we talked about it when we were mentioning Max Fried about being able to keep a delivery together in one piece. It's kind of coming at you in different parts to where his arm is lagging and he's slinging it. And
finally a strike, and
nice for him to find the strike zone there. And that was the last one where he got through and got over his front leg and really had his ball coming off his fingertips better, and that was better than the one before. So sometimes, you know, just that one pitch and that feeling like, oh, all right, I found it again. Let's replicate that. Let's do it again.
After 10 straight balls to begin his outing, back-to-back strikes. The 2-2 to Nicky Lopez misses just outside. 3 balls and 2 strikes, and that will release the runners. Paul from third, Sosa from second, and Dini from first. So a bit of a head start, trailing now by 3 as 3 runs have come across in this inning. The payoff pitch, driven to right field, and gone! A grand slam for Nicky Lopez on a line drive to right at 7-6 surprise.
And not much of a surprise, as Klaus did not want to give in to the strike zone, throwing a 3-2 fastball middle in, and talking about a little guy that's just absolutely sitting on a fastball. 3 strikes there thrown, and the last one did some major damage. Well done, son.
A grand slam for Lopez has totally changed the complexion of this one. 7-6 surprise. All of those runs in this fourth. And another pitching change here in Surprise. Back in a moment. Live baseball continues in November on MLB Network with the Arizona Fall League. See the next wave of Major League Phenoms battle for the Arizona Fall League Championship next Saturday, 3 Eastern on MLB Network. As it stands right now, it'll be Peoria and Mesa out of the East. But things have certainly changed for Peoria. The West leaders at the moment, up 6-0 coming into this bottom of the fourth inning, now trailing 7-6. As Josh Graham comes in, throws one pitch, bobbled at second base, and Mercado reaches on the Gurriel error.
You know, just at first glance, you may say that that's a routine play, but this was off the end of the bat, and I could just see that this was spinning like a cue ball. It was going 3 different directions, and watch Gurriel fight this. It just has all kinds of English on it.
Did that hit the lip too, I wonder? Maybe that last hop was even funkier than the last couple.
You see, he was gesturing. I mean, it was actually snaking back and forth. And if it did hit that lip, it made it even more difficult.
Now outside to Michael O'Neill, who grounded into a double play earlier in this inning. The 11th man to bat in the fourth. 7 runs in for Surprise. Runner goes. Throw to second. Safe.
That's a really tough call for the umpire when you get that late tag. It looked to me like the tag got him on the rear end, that it looked like it was still in time, but that's a tough play. Yeah, he was out.
He bobbled the ball, that's why. It popped. I think it popped out of the glove of Gurriel, but before it hit the ground and he lost total control of it, he was able to get it back in his glove. But either way, it's a stolen base for Mercado, so he moves into scoring position as O'Neill taps it foul, a ball and 2 strikes. Graham, the 3rd pitcher of this inning for Peoria after a terrific start. Terrific 3 innings for Max Fried. 3 scoreless. Keel, 2/3 of an inning, 3 hits, 4 runs. Klaus, faced 3 batters, didn't retire any of them. 2 walks and a grand slam for him, so he gives up 3 earned runs, as Jackson will talk with Graham to make sure they're on the same page.
Now you talk about all that offensive firepower that Peoria has. Out to a 6-0 lead and several walks in this inning, not protecting that, and they just hope to out-hit everybody every time. A lot of pitches outside the strike zone.
Runner goes again as O'Neill pops this one up on the infield. It's going to be Urias on the second base side of the bag. But the damage done in this inning, 7 runs come across, and none louder than this swing of the bat from Nicky Lopez. A line drive grand slam gives Surprise a 7-6 lead after 4.
Share what's inside.
Back here for the top of the 5th, the Saguaros with a 7-6 lead after a 7 spot in the bottom of the 4th inning. 4, 5, and 6 due up for Peoria here in the top of the 5th inning. The baseball world continues to mourn the tragic death of 2-time Cy Young Award winner Roy Halladay, who died in a plane crash on Tuesday. Halladay almost certainly a lock for Cooperstown in the near future, but already immortalized in the Arizona Fall League Hall of Fame, receiving that honor in 2006. He pitched in the AFL in 1998 for the Grand Canyon Rafters. Of course, our thoughts and prayers are with the Halladay family and the many friends that he built throughout his just terrific Major League Baseball career.
Yeah, it really is one of those just awful bits of news through any pitcher that's ever toed the slab. The respect that they had for Roy Halladay. I remember Derek Jeter talking about what he thought that he was going to look forward to in retirement is not having to lose sleep over having to face Pedro or having to face Roy Halladay, who was really down and out at the beginning of his career, and many know the story. His 3rd season, where he was sent all the way back down to A-ball, where Mel Queen, longtime Blue Jays pitching coach and coordinator, basically was wearing him out, saying you're naive and stupid, and if you don't make any changes, you're going to be done with us and done with baseball. And then for a couple of days just started having him lower his arm slot, without even a baseball. And after a few days, he did give him the ball and showed him a grip to make it dive away from right-handed hitters and sink back in on their hands. And all he did is come back the next year, come all the way back after all that perseverance and failure, the humility and without ego, and win 19 games. Guy who won 20 games 3 times, 19 games twice. And I think the reason it really just hit everyone so hard in baseball was he was that type of competitor that everything that he did and accomplished, the individual accomplishments, he referred to them as team accomplishments. And competing against him, you just couldn't have anything but just tremendous respect.
1-0 pitch to Acuna is upstairs with Felita on at first, and that's the thing. You mentioned that competitiveness that Roy Halladay had when he was on the mound, and you know, we certainly don't see it that much anymore. And it's not just a complete game here or there. That was his goal every time out. Finish what you start.
He came to the park and was prepared to get 27 outs, and he did it 67 times, and that's just hard to imagine that ever being repeated again.
Hot shot off the bat of Acuna, who has homered a couple of times, a solo homer in the second, a 2-run shot in the third. As you see, the 2006 Hall of Fame banner for Roy Halladay. Pitched in the Arizona Fall League back in the day, in the late 90s, before going on to just an amazing major league career. Check swing fouled off by Acuna, still 2 balls and 2 strikes. And it's a fun debate to have for many players, but for me, Joe, I of course defer to you. I don't know if there's really much debate. I think Cooperstown is next.
Yeah, for the period of over 10 years, he was revered as one of the tops in his game, and I saw so many of his starts working in the AL East, and of course just that was appointment viewing when he was pitching for the Phillies, just as nasty as he could be with those splits against lefties and righties. Just
earlier that year in May while pitching with the Phillies, and I had seen one of the many tweets about Roy Halladay during this week that he got Rolex watches for 60 some odd people in the Phillies organization after having these amazing quote unquote individual accomplishments. But to your point, it was always much more than that.
Yeah, it was always about the team. It had the box score on the underside engraved on all of the watches, and really he did not think of that as an individual achievement. He thought of that as an entire group thing, and oftentimes, pitchers are just viewed as individuals out there, and having their success, and then the team revolves around that. But he really viewed, himself as just one of greater than the sum of the parts. And to see him and to see the look on some of the most feared hitters, whether it's David Ortiz or anyone that you might imagine, that this was a customer that they had tremendous respect for. He wasn't about showing anyone up, but he was just all about dominating.
Alex Jackson toward left center field, going to stay in the yard. Nice catch over there by O'Neill, who kind of circled around that one, but does corral it for out number 2.
Pretty nifty play here. We saw Acuna make one like this with the ball sinking away from him. A little bit of a snow cone job by O'Neill, right on the edge of the webbing.
So he puts that one away to retire Jackson. That will bring up Lourdes Gurriel, who singled and scored in the second and flew out to center in the third. Spins away from that one. A ball and no strikes from Ferguson.
Yeah, the other thing, I had just kind of touched on it earlier about Roy Halladay, that I thought that just the tragedy of it that got so many people's attention is that he had the respect of every peer in baseball.
That's Lopez at short with a slick play to retire Gurriel. But as we said before, the baseball world continues to mourn Roy Halladay. He will be missed. No question about it. 7-6 here in Surprise. Welcome back to Surprise. In the previous half inning, we saw Tyler Ferguson called for a pitch clock infraction. Of course, they're working with the pitch clocks here in the Arizona Fall League. When nobody's on base, it's 12 seconds. With runners on base, it's 15 seconds. The pitcher side of things, if there's an infraction, it's an automatic ball. If for the batter not being in the box at a certain time, it's an automatic strike. So all the different ways that the Arizona Fall League has been trying to work out different rules on a test basis. We've seen it whether it be with the pitch clock or other pace of play initiatives, slide rules at second base, instant replay going 3 or 4 years back. Joe, you've been on the mound, and we even saw it last week as Padlo fouls that one off. By the way, Padlo, Perez, and Hernandez do up here in the bottom of the fifth. We saw it last week with Justice Sheffield, twice called for a pitch clock violation. What do you make of the idea of the pitch clock 1, and 2, the 15 and 12 second increments.
Well, I am all for speeding up the game. I think it's kind of a situation where I think they're trying to get real aggressive with the timing to where they can kind of arrive at a negotiating point with the players union at the major league level to have something a little bit more realistic.
Padlow toward the gap in right center field. That is down and should be extra bases as he chugs into second with a leadoff double here in the 5th.
Yeah, so when you're talking about the difference now with the runner on second base, it goes to 15 seconds. He has 15 seconds to, and sometimes I think that this is very difficult to pull off because you have different sequences, and if you're shaking to that third sign, you just can't get there. You can't get there in 15 seconds. We come off the World Series. You see Brian McCann, and Matt Barnes going to the mound 3 and 4 times an inning and changing the sequence of signs, or Lance McCullers, who is going to throw a curveball 50% of the time, going with five signals with no one on base.
Cue shot up the first base line. Perez retired. Advancing to third is Padlow with 1 out in the 5th. And again, I don't know if loopholes is the right word, but there is a situation as you're going through your sequence when you can step off. If you are cognizant of the clock, you can step off, kind of reset. And I don't think that that's what happened with Justice Sheffield last week.
No, but the other thing with that is you're trying to throw something 90-some miles an hour with precision, to where you have to feel almost like with the accuracy of an archer that really takes a lot of your concentration, and you don't want to get caught clock watching. And I think every pitcher thinks clearer when they're working quickly. They're much more decisive. They throw their pitches with much more conviction. And from being on the mound growing up, as a kid, seeing Jim Cott pitch, how quick that he worked, and my idol Steve Carlton was a fast worker, and I did exactly that same thing. And just look back into the past. Any time that you see guys working quickly, it usually means that they're pitching in rhythm and really making decisive pitches with conviction.
And as we saw a moment ago, kind of a wider shot from center field. You know this as well as anyone. As a pitcher, your laser focus is on the catcher and on that glove, and
it's not only on the glove, but it's inside the glove you're looking at.
Fair point. Point being, I guess, is that it's not 30 feet out.
Right.
And again, if this gets implemented at the big league level, maybe there's an exact spot where every clock needs to be. Again, I'm not privy to that information, but you'd think that if the pitcher needs to be on top of that clock, that it would be within your television screen right here, somewhere in that window where the pitcher could see it.
Well, and the other thing, oftentimes pitchers and catchers have a hard time getting together on the signs, and when it gets to that third signal, you're just running out of time with no one on base at 12 seconds, and with someone on base with 15 seconds, especially when you're giving a whole different sequence of signs, because you're very worried about the guy on second relaying those signs. So you can't just put like the pitch that you want down. You have to go through that sequence that you have committed to. But I will say this. I think it is a much better game. The pitcher pitches better when he works faster, and it is certainly a much better game when it moves along quicker as well.
And the thing is, the Fall League, it's not just a finishing school, it's also been kind of this lab. I think it was last year we had for a few games, these balls that didn't need to be rubbed up with mud.
Right.
And then they try various things. They tested instant replay out here on numerous occasions.
Chris Paul drives one center field, sends Davis back to the track, and he can't make the catch. One run will come into score, being waved around as Hernandez. Here's the throw. That's cut off. It's a 2-run triple for Chris Paul. Surprise opens up a 9-6 lead.
And this game means something too. We talk about this being a developmental league. The division's on the line, and if Surprise continues his comeback, they're only going to be 2 games out with a week to play.
Boy, what an effort by Davis to think that he's going into the center field wall and he is on the track. I mean, that's just really giving it up. And he didn't make the play, but I commend him for just tremendous effort.
A long way to go back there and attempt to make that play. But Hernandez comes around to score. A thumbs up from Davis in center that he's all right. So 9 unanswered runs here for the Saguaros as they sent 11 men to the plate in the bottom of the 4th inning. The aforementioned West standings, with the Desert Dogs winning earlier today to keep the pressure on Peoria and Surprise for that matter. 11 men came to the plate in the 4th inning, 7 runs on 4 hits.
And before last night's game, when these two teams played, Peoria was up by 4 games with 6 to play, if I have my math correctly. So it's getting a lot tighter. But before we saw that triple, I was trying to say is, I think one of the great things about the league is, I don't think any of us think we'll see a 12 and 15 second clock in the big leagues. Maybe we'll see a 20-second clock. Joe said maybe they'd be a compromise.
Schwartz away from Jackson, and in to score is Paul. Now 10-6. Surprise.
But just to finish that point up, you could try things out here even if they aren't necessarily going to happen in the big leagues. Like, I'm not a fan at all of the placement runner rule, which we'll never see in the big leagues. I'd be shocked, but they're still trying it out, and that's one of the things the fall league is good for.
Yeah, I think that one will go as a pass ball. Catcher just trying to glove that, almost kind of a little trap. Got his glove turned over.
And Alex Jackson's really a work in progress behind the plate. He broke into pro ball. He did catch in high school. Number 6 overall pick in the draft in 2014. Was thought to be this can't-miss hitter, and he swung and missed a lot and had a lot of trouble in the Mariners system as an outfielder. They wanted to put him in the outfield, kind of like the Nationals did with Bryce Harper, who also caught, because the bat's so good, let's just get it to the big leagues. That didn't work. He gets traded to the Braves, and they put him back behind the plate, and the receiving is still very much a work in progress. A long way to go as a receiver. Catching's hard enough, but when you haven't done it for 3 or 4 years, I think it adds a little degree of difficulty there as well.
High degree of difficulty there on the backhand from Arias at short. Naylor with the pick, but not in time as Sosa reaches on the infield single.
It's a tough call for first base umpire with that bang play. He showed a strong arm from the hole and one hopped it, and they're waiting for the pop of the glove and then watching where the foot is, and he is well beyond the bag, clearly safe.
Pretty nice play by Urias, though. I mean, Sosa gets down the line pretty quickly. He's a solid runner, 55 on that 20 to 80 scale we were talking about earlier, which made the play that much more difficult.
Yeah, usually when you see shortstops that have to move to second base, oftentimes it's the arm strength or a couple of other indicators. But Urias showing a good arm there.
Then he lines one out toward right, and Falia able to make the catch. Having to go back a few steps, reach over his shoulder, and hauls it in for out number 2.
Boy, all of a sudden, Surprise is just coming after these guys, barreling up, seemingly every ball. These outfielders are breathing hard.
And now it's Nicky Lopez. His last trip in that 7-run 4th inning had the grand slam. The hot shot toward his shortstop counterpart. Urias puts that one away. Another hard hit ball. This one didn't clear the fence for a grand slam. Instead, it's a 6 unassisted. 3 more runs in. 10-6 after 5.
AT3W.
Welcome back to Surprise, Arizona. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, Jim Callis of MLBpipeline.com, the spring home of the Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals. Also the home to the 2017 Military Appreciation Game. It is 10-6 as we move to the top of the sixth as Adam Choplik takes over, the fourth pitcher for Surprise. Once down 6-0, a 4-run cushion to try to protect here.
They don't get much bigger than Adam Choplik. 6'9", 250, big, intimidating lefty. He'll throw 92, 96 miles an hour with a power curve. Doesn't always throw strikes. Kind of similar to Tyler Ferguson, the Ranger we just saw throw 2 scoreless innings. Battled his control a little bit in the second inning. He's got the stuff. He just needs to be able to harness it.
Face Luis Urias, who takes the ball in the dirt. 2 balls and no strikes. 9-1-2 due up for Peoria. Urias, Davis, and Chavis coming up here in this 6th inning. Of course, a body like that, 6'9", 250, you say, well, geez, why didn't this guy play basketball? Well, he did in high school. In fact, his mother and father also played at the University of North Texas. So hoops in his blood, but it's worked out, at least to this point, for him on the baseball side of things. A 14th round pick in 2015 out of the University of Oklahoma.
And just look at that glove when it's in that hand next to that body. It looks like a little kid's glove that... You know, that's for a 10-year-old that's just starting out. Of course, 6'9", 250, and a lot of moving parts, and trying to repeat the delivery is going to be the challenge for Choplik. And I think one of the things in him is it was said by his farm director about really having to get over that hurdle of having the confidence. He's closed a couple games. He's really liked the feeling of being able to do that. Of course, you have to be very confident and the ability to bounce back to be successful at that, and has really grown a lot in that level of confidence. That if you don't have any confidence out on the hill, you're done, because the hitter will smell blood in the water, and you have to be the one that's on the attack.
And it's been a struggle for him at times. He had Tommy John surgery in high school. He did not have a lot of success throughout most of his career at the University of Oklahoma. He's had more success in pro ball when he's become a full-time reliever than he ever did with the Sooners.
And 0-2 to Jonathan Davis, skips up there. Deeney does a nice job to keep it in front and keep Urias over at first.
Somebody has to get him an adult-sized glove, though. That looks like something he could wax his car with.
There's always something to work on out here in the Arizona Fall League, and the repeating of the mechanics. One of those things out here in the AFL. That one inside to Davis. Count evens up 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, he's walked 93 guys, 148 pro innings. And like we said with Ferguson, I mean, that stuff's great when you could throw 92, 96 and you have the power curveball. But if you don't throw strikes, you're going to pay. You know, and he struggled with strikes out here. 8 walks in 10 innings, not counting the one to lead off this frame.
Ground ball towards second, bobbled, but they will get the out at first. As Urias heads into second, 1 away.
So much about having a repetitive delivery is that back posting leg and being able to be balanced. As you see the fielder's choice, that's Choplik on the mound, and a cup check ground ball to second base.
Won't, of course, go down as an error, but one that you could probably file under routine double play. But Sosa with the bobble, and into second goes Urias. That'll bring up Michael Chavis. Single in the first, sac fly in the second, and a ground ball in the fourth. takes low and in here in the 6th. The ball and no strikes.
You know, a pitcher, you know, that size, that height, needs to have the relationship where his head is over the ball of his back foot, and really that's kind of like your balance, your posting leg that goes all the way up, that allows you to be balanced over the pitching rubber to where everything is in sequence and on time, and then you have that consistent release point, and then there comes your control and your repeatable delivery.
A ball and a strike here to Chavis, the number 92 overall prospect, according to MLBpipeline.com. Number 2 in the Red Sox system. Number 5 at third base in all of minor league baseball. And he will wait for a 1-1 from Choplik.
Really nice breakout year for Chavis this year. It was a long time coming. As you mentioned, first round pick in 2014, 26th overall. And he really struggled his first few years in pro ball. He was, I think, in some ways, I don't know if he's trying to live up to the draft status, but he's definitely trying to do too much at the plate and basically trying to swing at everything and yank it all out of the park. Started to make some strides with his approach last year, but then he tore a ligament in his left thumb and broke a bone in his finger. And when he came back, I think he was trying to make up for lost time, so he fell into the same trap. This year, much more patient approached, much more disciplined. And as I say that, I thought he rung him up, didn't he?
No, I checked the swing. They checked down at first. They checked the swing, so 2 balls and 2 strikes.
But he's been more patient. He's using the whole field. I mean, this guy's got bat speed. He's got strength. He doesn't have to sell out to hit home runs. And once he realized that, his career started to take off.
So it sounds like a pretty glowing scouting report for Chavis, who swings and misses for the second out here in the 6th inning. But with all that being said, he's playing third base out here. Rafael Devers up in Boston had a good, we'll call it second half of last season. So how does Chavis, Devers, and that whole situation maybe play out where we stand right now in Boston?
And Devers is even younger than Chavis, too.
Yeah.
Well, Chavis has played some first base out here as well, and that's going to be something he's going to play more of next year. The Red Sox, they may be in the market for free agent first baseman this year, but they've really been trying to fill that position the last couple of years. I think that's where he'll at least get his initial opportunity in Boston, because Rafael Devers isn't going anywhere.
Well, and the other thing with Chavis is being able to show that power. If you're talking about all of the great accomplishments that the Red Sox had this year, the one thing they were lacking is power. And that right-handed power obviously plays in Fenway Park. And so does left-handed power, as Big Papi will tell you.
Yeah, he was good in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We can.
It's just not every one of those home runs was hooking around the pesky pole.
1-1 to Austin Riley. Swing and a miss, 1-2. The number 10 prospect in the Braves farm system, according to MLBpipeline.com. A Braves farm system that is at the top of the heap of the 30 organizations in minor league baseball, or I guess you could say major league organizations or minor league systems.
He's been tardy on a couple fastballs tonight from Davis and from Choplik, just threading the needle right there.
A called strike 3 for out number 3. Works around the leadoff walk through 5.5. 10-6. Visit the official online shop of Major League Baseball at MLBshop.com for the latest selection of authentic caps, t-shirts, jerseys, hoodies, collectibles, and more. Celebrate your favorite team at MLBshop.com. And relive the 2017 season with RBI Baseball 17, packed with fast pace, pick up and play MLB action, and all your favorite MLB teams, players, ballparks, and much more. Get RBI Baseball today for Xbox One, PlayStation 4, Nintendo Switch, and mobile devices. Learn more at RBIGame.com. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, Jim Callis of MLBPipeline.com back with you as we head to the bottom of the 6th inning. A 7 spot in the 4th and 3 more in the 5th has Surprise up 10-6 as we go to the last of this 6th inning. Top of the order due up for Surprise to try to tack on. Oscar Mercado, Michael O'Neill, and Kevin Padlo due up against the 5th pitcher of the night for Peoria, Andrew Case out of the Toronto Blue Jays farm system. Delivers an 0-1 pitch, which is tapped foul, 0-2.
He was signed as a non-drafted free agent out of Lethbridge Junior College in Alberta. Not exactly your typical baseball hotbed, but he's worked his way up to AAA in the Jays system. Your typical sinker, slider, pitch to contact guy. He was actually on Canada's World Baseball Classic roster this spring. Didn't appear in a game, but was on the Canadian staff.
Mercado skies one toward right field. Coming in and toward the line is Falia to put that one away for out number 1. Yeah, not a closer tonight necessarily, pitching here in the bottom of the 6th inning, but he has been given the opportunity to close. Called up to Double-A for the first time in 2017 at a 1.58 ERA with 8 saves, and said that he loves pitching in high leverage situations. So those opportunities really get me going. Feels great. That felt great for Michael O'Neill. Laced toward the gap in left center field. Cut off nicely by Acuna. Here's the throw, and it jumps away from Gurriel. So it's a double for O'Neill.
That wasn't the easiest play, but Gurriel has not had a good night corralling throws at second base. Also on that stolen base we saw earlier.
But O'Neill has had a couple of pretty good at-bats, takes advantage of a mistake, and just absolutely, you know, when you're talking about the shortstop jumping to try to think that he has a play on it, and to turn that into 2 and it doesn't go to the wall, and having to bust it into second, that goes to show you how hard that ball was hit.
And Acuna has a good arm too. It also, I think, shows you how well O'Neill runs.
Shocking. He's got another tool. Right, yeah.
You know, and O'Neill didn't hesitate. I'll be honest, that was one where I actually started to write single to left field on my scorecard. And I looked up and well, he's going to second. He's going to be out. And good hustle there by Michael O'Neill.
And maybe if Gurriel is able to catch it cleanly and apply the tag, it would have been close. But it is in fact a double to get things going here after the fly ball. A 1-out double for O'Neill, and here is Kevin Padlo. A ball and a strike with 1 on and 1 out. Swing and a miss, 1-2. He struck out in the 1st inning, walked and scored in that 7-run 4th inning, and doubled and scored in the 5th.
Case has that little timing mechanism where he kind of taps the ball in his glove when he is gathering over the pitching rubber. You've seen Greg Maddux, Justin Verlander do it, and it's just a kind of a really just a rhythm or a trigger where you arrive at that balance point, that everything arrives at the same time, where it's to basically gather and go towards the plate. And that glove tap just kind of keeps you right on time.
Waved that and missed for out number 2 here in the 6th. First strikeout for Case.
And that was a wipeout slider. Absolutely nasty. Look at this thing take a left turn. But he didn't tap his glove that time with the ball. There'll be some people that will be checking that kind of stuff out.
Yaniel Perez to short. Urias for out number 3. The Saguaros strand a runner in scoring position, but still hold a 10-6 lead as we go to the 7th here in Surprise. The wait is almost over. It's trophy time on MLB Network. The Baseball Writers Association of America announces their awards beginning Monday. Rookies of the Year, Managers of the Year, the Cy Youngs, and both MVPs beginning Monday at 6 Eastern live on MLB Network. Back here in Surprise, Jared Ruxer takes over. You see his numbers at High A and Double A. Drafted in the 12th round in 2014. The first round of the draft started on June 5th. The same day he had Tommy John surgery. He pitches here in the top of the 7th inning. He'll face Falea, Acuna, and Naylor and try to protect a 10-6 lead for the Surprise Saguaros in this 2017 AFL Military Appreciation game. Paul Severino, Joe McGrain, and Jim Callis of MLBpipeline.com. Glad you're with us on a Saturday night. As Falea flies this one down the left field line and into the first or maybe second row. That was a bobble. I can't give the guy credit. I wanted to. End up with a bruise and a souvenir, so he'll take it. Falea with a ground ball to end things in the first. Singled and scored in the 3rd and singled in the 5th.
Yeah, I can't criticize that fan's hands because that ball actually hit him in the bicep.
And that one almost got Falea in the tricep. He spins away, and it's 2 balls and a strike.
My up to the second calculations, Falea now has the batting lead over Nicky Lopez, although Nicky Lopez had the grand slam because Falea has 2 hits tonight to Nicky's 1. He's hitting .391, and just a real interesting story. I mean, here's a guy who was almost 24 years old when he entered pro ball because he missed 2 full years at UCLA. He was their leading hitter when they won the 2013 College World Series, their best hitter in the postseason. And then he missed all of 2014 after he had surgery on his labrum in his throwing shoulder. And then he missed all of 2015 with an academic suspension related to plagiarism. Came back, signs in the 20th round, and he's hit everywhere he's gone in pro ball. Kind of Interested to see what will become of him. He can hit for average. I don't know if there's really another tool that carries him. So he can hit for average, but he doesn't really have the profile power for the corner, run well enough to play center field. But he continues to open eyes with his performance here in the fall league. But not like Ronald Acuna has.
No. He has got a lot of eyes open. And frankly, they were open to begin with. And we said earlier, and I think that we should clarify that he's the number 5 overall prospect, according to MLBpipeline.com. But, Jim, you can clean this up. These rankings were from what, July?
Right around the trade deadline.
Since then, there have been some other guys graduating out of the minor league system. So the next time these rankings come out, he'll be higher than 5th.
Yeah, I think it comes down to the question is he number 1 or number 2? Because I from an all-around tool standpoint, I think he's the best guy in the minor leagues. That said, I love Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s bat. I think he's going to hit. I think he's a better pure hitter and may have more raw power than Ronald Acuna, which I know sounds crazy since we've seen him hit 2 homers tonight. He's not the athlete. He's playing third base right now. He's probably going to wind up at first base or an outfield corner. But that's going to be our debate when we redo our list in the spring. Is do you go for Ronald Acuna's all-around brilliance, and the bat ain't bad, or do you go for Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s bat? And I'm torn. I go back and forth on that.
I just love the self-assuredness and confidence that Acuna has. Sure, we've seen him while he's going good. They're at this part of the year where a lot of guys haven't played in September, much less November.
Chop to third, and it gets through Padlo and into left field. That one got on Padlo quick. And we'll see how they score that one, but either way, 2 on and nobody out here in the top of the 7th.
I think that goes as an error, but it really goes to show you the bat speed of Acuna when you have, I call it, having seen it from the hill many times, a big man's hit where that second bounce overspin because there's so much bat speed creating that top spin that it just absolutely eats up the fielder. It looked like that second bounce where you think the ball is slowing down. You saw there, it looked like it was accelerating.
So it is, in fact, an error on Padlo, and now Peoria in business with Josh Naylor taking a big swing and a miss. Foul tipped it, in fact, but 0-1 nonetheless.
Looking for a different area code on that one.
Yeah. Not want to get cheated, the 20-year-old who already has a couple of hits in this one. A double, and he scored in the second. And a single in the third. We see the big San Diego across the chest of Naylor. This is a San Diego Padres organization, Jim, that's kind of in the last, I guess we can call it 5 years, gone in a couple of different directions to go for it. That didn't work out. They tried to rebuild. Last couple of years, that maybe hasn't worked out. Naylor with the ground ball to second, the tag and the throw, and a double play. But to finish that thought, where or how would you rank the San Diego Padres organization going forward?
I think I had them number 3 on my list. I mean, they're one of the best farm systems in baseball as well. We talked about the Braves earlier, and you're right. A.J. Preller, when he came in as GM, traded a bunch of prospects. They went for a win-now approach. And now, when that didn't work, they did a 180, and they've acquired a lot of prospects. They have one of my favorite pitching prospects in baseball, the number 3 pick in this year's draft, Mackenzie Gore. But it's just a really balanced system. Besides Urias, they have another tremendous shortstop prospect in Fernando Tatis Jr. They've got all kinds of pitching with guys like Cal Quantrill and Michel Baez and Adrian Morejon. It's just a very balanced system, whereas the Braves, Acuna aside, leans very heavily pitching. The Padres farm system is a very balanced farm system.
Part of the aforementioned Braves farm system, Alex Jackson takes a look at strike 1. The ball and the strike to Jackson. Grounded out in the second, struck out in the third, and flew out in the 5th. Breaking ball in there for a called strike, 1-2. The Angels traded Ruxer to the Royals for Brooks Pounders, a right-handed pitcher, in December of 2016. So that's how he got to the Royals system. after being drafted in the 12th round of the 2014 June draft by the Angels.
Just a beautiful job of smothering that. And with a runner on third, you know, you don't think about just left to right as a catcher. You kind of work in like kind of half circles to where the ball stays in front of you. And he got a glove on it, but it looked like he hurt himself. I don't know if it was the big toe, the way he kind of rotated on it, but he saved a run.
A high chopper, and a nice job there at short by Nicky Lopez to make the play and end the top of the 7th inning. Every day, but especially on Veterans Day, we say thank you to the brave men and women of all of our branches of our military who protect and serve this great country. We'll keep it here for the 7th inning stretch, and God bless America. Here's our PA announcer, Tony Ringsby.
God bless America, land that I love. Stand beside her and guide her through the night with the light from above. From the mountains to the prairies to the oceans white with foam. God bless America, my home sweet home. God bless America, my home sweet home.
Ten 10-6 here in Surprise as we go to the bottom of the 7th. We'll be right back. In fact, we'll keep it here. I apologize, here in Surprise as we get ready for the bottom of this 7th inning. And again, our thanks to the brave men and women who continue to and have served this country on this Veterans Day, and frankly, every day. We thank you all for your service of the United States of America. As the 2017 Military Appreciation Game continues, again, it is a 10-6 score into the bottom of the 7th inning, and my, how things have changed as the Peoria Javelinas got out to an early lead in the 2nd inning by putting 4 runs on the board. And thanks in large part to a guy that we talked about last week in the Fall Stars game, talked about in the open, Ronald Acuna, with a home run to lead things off in the 2nd. He wasn't done. An inning later in the 3rd, a 2-run home run. Again, a majestic blast, helping to open up what was then going to be a 6-0 lead at one point, but coming all the way back, part of a huge 7-run 4th inning. Nicky Lopez with a grand slam, a low line drive down the right field line as the Royals farmhand made it a 7-6 ball game at that point. And Surprise still not done. A 2 RBI triple from Chris Paul in the 5th helped to open up a 10-6 lead for Surprise. And again, not so much the standings and the wins and losses when it comes to the purpose of the Arizona Fall League, but boy, oh boy, it certainly helps when here we are with a little less than a week to go in the Fall League, and you've got teams that are looking to win some games. Peoria coming into this one 14-11 on top of the Western Division, 2.5 games up on Glendale as we speak, 3 up on Surprise. So as we are going to be back with you next Saturday from Scottsdale Stadium for the AFL Championship game, still a lot to be determined as to who's going to end up there.
Yeah, I thought when I flew out here Friday before Peoria and Surprise had played last night, I was like, okay, well, we're going to definitely see Peoria in the championship game, but if they lose this one, they'll have lost 2 games to each of the other 2 teams in the West Division, 2 games in the standings, 2 games directly to surprise, and it's suddenly getting a lot tighter with 4 games to play. I'm excited to see Andres Munoz pitch here. He's the youngest guy in the league, only 18 years old, but he can hit triple digits with the fastball. I know we were talking about velocity isn't everything, but triple digits, that one was 98 on the scoreboard radar gun, is pretty fun to watch. Signed out of Mexico City's youth academy by the Padres for $700,000. And this is a potential closer. Not a real big guy, physically 6'2", I think about 170, but he can light the gun up.
Well, like a lot of those guys that throwing in the high 90s and above, he looks like he does it pretty easily. Has a nice loose arm, and there you go, Jim. He can rush it up there, and if he just has any semblance of a slider, as nice and easy as that gas is, his career will get moving in a hurry, regardless of how young he is.
Yeah, I mean, only 18. That last pitch was 100. I want to see the slider here, too, but you're right. I mean, he's not throwing with excessive effort at all. That was 101.
Popped up, foul ground. Giving chase is Naylor. And then giving way to Gurriel. A nice catch in foul ground for out number 1.
Let's give Gurriel a little props there after we were, and I guess me in particular, was dogging him for not hanging on to the ball a couple times tonight.
Yeah, don't take us down with you.
That wasn't super easy. Josh Naylor was a formidable obstacle in the way there before bailing out at the last minute. I don't think I'd want to run into Josh Naylor.
I'm with you on that.
Yeah, that catch, you're right, was anything but routine, especially for calling off Naylor.
So now Chris Paul, who singled in 2 and scored a run in the 4th inning, tripled in 2 in the 5th inning. So he's had himself a very nice night here in Surprise.
Here we got to look at that slider and look to have some good rotation on it, some good late break. Some of your best ones go to the backstop, but that one with foul ball at 100.
A cool 100. Be a 1-1 from Munoz to Paul. A little wrinkle in it. A ball and 2 strikes. Mark Pryor's a guy who knows a thing or two about pitching. He's actually the Padres pitching coordinator, and said this about Munoz. He thinks that he'll be able to handle facing high caliber players. Thinks he's ready to handle that challenge coming off a year. Is extremely confident in his stuff.
Wow.
And why not with stuff like that as he blows away Chris Paul for out number 2.
I think I'd feel pretty confident if I could throw 100 or 101. I feel like I can throw the ball by guys. But for 18 years old, he actually made his full season debut. Got up to low class A at the end of the season. It'll be interesting when you have these young. I do worry about young guys, and he's not real physical, who throw very hard. I just don't know that a lot of those guys don't seem to hold up, even though there's nothing glaringly wrong with his delivery. And it winds up being kind of a difficult balance for the organization, where you want to move him, but you don't want to pile up a lot of innings on him because he's still so young.
Look at that slider to go with the fastball. We already saw a well-located fastball to get Chris Paul. I mean, this is not a developmental pitch. This has got a little something on it. It has some real break to it. It's not a spinner. Wow.
Jeez, 102.
I think that will play.
Let's get him back for another inning.
Let's see. Why not?
And a very brave pronouncement by Mark Pryor, thinking that he's got a chance.
No question about it. As he blows away Sosa. Couple of strikeouts in the 7th. We're through 7, 10-6.
She's on sideline.
There as Vasquez loosens.
You have to put the shift on and put a guy in the bullpen when Acuna comes up.
Yes.
Well, Davis is 5'8" and just hit the ball about 390 feet, so I don't blame O'Neill for playing deep.
Falia through the left side of the infield. They had him shaded over to the right side. He pokes it the other way. Chavis hustles into third. First and third, 2 outs in the 8th for Peoria.
Here's his quick strike offense. All of a sudden, an extra base hit makes it really interesting. He's finding the hole there, going with the pitch. Refreshing to see.
Nice hustle by Chavis too. He's not. I mean, he's not a big runner, and O'Neill hustled on that ball too. Initially, I thought maybe O'Neill didn't get into it quickly, but O'Neill did, and Chavis just didn't hesitate. And who knows if, last inning Dini saved a run by blocking the ball in dirt. Wild pitch gets you within a running.
And now it is Acuna, the 2 home runs, the 3 RBIs, and the go-ahead run here in the 8th.
Boy, he has to love this spot here. The way he has swung it tonight. Of course, no surprise. Jim, you talked about him right off the top.
I mean, we're seeing why this guy, some people consider him the best prospect in baseball. And then the great thing is
both sides of the ball.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's not just the crazy power we've seen tonight. He can do everything.
Back in the lineup today after missing a couple of days, was under the weather for Peoria, but he looks healthy. A couple of long home runs so far in this one, but they need another big hit out of that bat right now, trailing by 2 with the tying runs on the corners and 2 outs in the 8th.
Yeah, the Braves not only have a strong system, they've sent a lot of their best prospects here. I mean, a couple days ago, Acuna, Riley, and Jackson were all tied for the league home run lead. Max Fried's leading the league in wins and strikeouts. And Tuki Toussaint, who we're not going to see tonight, I don't know if you guys got to see him in the Fall Stars game.
We did.
He could snap off some ridiculous curveballs and throw it up around 96, 97 miles an hour, too. He still has to harness it. But always like it. Sometimes you have organizations, maybe their pitchers, their best pitchers got a lot of innings, or they have organizational type guys they sent out here, but the Braves sent out some really talented players as well.
2-1 to Acuna and a big swing and a miss. 2 balls and 2 strikes.
Well, he really sold out for that one, and that was the first real aggressive pitch that Bodner threw to Acuna. Looks like he is being overly careful. Of course, you can understand.
And on 3-2 and 2 outs, that will release the potential tying run in Falia over there at first. Chavis the runner on at third.
You got to block that slider if he's going to throw it.
Bodner delivers outside, ball 4, and the bases are loaded.
Good patience there too. I mean, in this situation, you've already hit 2 home runs. It'd be easy to want to be the hero, but he didn't chase.
And surprise manager Spike Owen going to come out and make a pitching change with the bases loaded and 2 outs in the 8th. He will go to Vasquez. We will go to break. Welcome back. Andrew Vasquez takes over. Drafted by the Royals in the 44th round in 2011. Did not sign. Then drafted by the Twins in the 32nd round in 2015. So far in his pro career, 66 appearances and a 166 ERA. Was at 155 at A-ball and high A in 2017. And tasked with a tough one right here. Protecting a 10-8 lead in the top of the 8th inning. With the bases loaded, Chavis is the runner at third, Falia the runner at second, and Acuna is on at first. And Josh Naylor is at the plate. Naylor's had himself a good night. A double, he scored a run in the second, a single in the third, a strikeout, and then they double play. A good night, not a great night. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Paul, that Vasquez, for a left-hander that looks like he turns the ball over, very short stride. He doesn't really go down the hill. He just picks that leg up and just kind of puts it down. It's almost like half the stride length of some of the pitchers that we've seen tonight.
6'6", listed at 228 pounds.
And for somebody that tall, that is really unusual.
Is he trying to stay on top of his breaking ball and maybe get some depth to it? Is that what he's
Well, I think that this is a project about, look at this. He's just, he's throwing straight up from 6'6", and I think there's more velocity in there.
Misses low, and a 4-pitch walk to force home another run. It's now 10-9.
Surprise just really opened the door for Peoria. Charged right back through it.
And now the 9th batter of the inning is the catcher, Alex Jackson.
This is a good time to jump on that first one as he's trying to get back in the strike zone.
Not going to jump on that. It caught him in the leg. A hit by pitch brings home another, and we are tied at 10.
Tried days spinning the breaking ball there in that situation because he thought he might be trying to jump on that first pitch. Just to amaze someone 6'6", just picking up that foot and putting it down. I was saying that there's some more velocity if you could get him to lengthen his stride and go down the hill. It's like he's just throwing sky hooks up there.
He's been lights out here in the fall league. 0.79 ERA coming into this game, and we have yet to see him throw a strike.
And now it's Lourdes Gurriel who led off this inning with a double. Called strike. He bats now with the bases loaded. Acuna the runner on at third. Naylor at second. Jackson at first. And a generous strike call from the home plate umpire, Nick Marley.
Well, I told you guys the Royals liked his framing skills, and McDeany framed that one very nicely.
Gurriel singled and scored in the first, and again doubled and scored here in this 8th. 4 runs in. We have seen some big innings tonight. 4-run second, top of the second, a 7-run bottom of the 4th, a 3-run bottom of the 5th, and now so far a 4-run top of the 8th.
Hope you guys didn't have dinner reservations.
Well, not to pick at an old scat, but yeah. Now, so far, a 4-run top of the 8th.
Hope you guys didn't have dinner reservations.
Well, not to pick at an old scat, but yeah. I mean, come on. I hear my stomach growling right now. That's in there for a called strike. 2-2.
Well, I figured Gurriel would be all over that.
In fact, so that was strike 3. He was not all over that. Everybody needed a second. I don't think anybody knew what the count was. Either way, 4 runs in. We are tied at 10 going to the last of the 8th here in Surprise. Welcome back to Surprise. A scary moment in the second inning of this game as Austin Riley flew out with 2 away in the second inning. Oscar Mercado, the center fielder, and Lamont Wade, the right fielder, colliding in right center field. Both were down for a while. Mercado did get up under his own power. Lamont Wade needed to be carted off. The latest update that we've got is a head and neck concern. The trainer, Chris Johnson, went with him to the hospital. Wade was conscious the whole time. He's currently undergoing tests, and it could be a while until we know more. If we do learn anything more, we'll be sure to pass that along. And of course, our thoughts are with Lamont Wade as he undergoes those tests at a local hospital. We move to the bottom of the 8th inning in a tie game right now. It's been back and forth all night long as Nick Dini will lead things off. Warren on the bump. It's been a busy day in this Arizona Fall League. 57 runs across those 3 games. And we've got 20 in this one as Dini skies one towards center field. An easy play out there for Jonathan Davis. 1 away.
Always thought that is just the weird sense of happenstance over the course of many years and watching the scoreboards, the out-of-town scores, and it seems like there's nights when every team is in low-scoring games, and then just the complete reverse. Everyone's in high-scoring games, and sometimes it's not even related to the back part of the starting rotation. It's just weird how it seems to kind of run in cycles like that.
A lot of walks have come in to score tonight, too. It seems like whenever one team jumps out to big lead, it starts giving it back by putting guys on base and setting the other team back up. We saw Peoria do that after the 6-0 lead, and then apparently Surprise didn't like having a 10-6 lead because they gave it right back.
They did.
Yes, it's been a perfect illustration of the fundamental that managers and pitching coaches stress to their hurlers about getting the ball over the dish and how much base on balls can hurt you.
Look at that. Nice job slapping one through the left side by Nicky Lopez.
Just beautiful bat control there.
One of the reasons why he came into this game at the top of the heap when it comes to batting average in the Arizona Fall League. He's also added a grand slam and now an opposite field knock here in the 8th.
They're playing pretty much straight up, both teams, as they have had all night. And the big league level, you would see a lot of shifting, and he just served that beautifully, showed outstanding bat control.
And now Oscar Mercado fouls one back, the number 18 prospect in the Cardinals system, according to MLBpipeline.com. And we've seen throughout the years, Jim Callis, that this Cardinals farm system, it's always been when a guy gets hurt at the big league level, it's always the next man up. How deep is that farm system right now?
It's not as deep as it, for years they had one of the better farm systems. Now it's kind of, I'd say, more solid than right at the top of the list. But, a guy who counts as part of the farm system we haven't thought about in years, Alex Reyes, who missed a whole year with Tommy John surgery, who's one of the best pitching prospects in baseball. I really like Carson Kelly. I think he might be the best all-around catching prospect when you factor in the defense and the offense in baseball. He's, of course, blocked by Molina. Jack Flaherty is a guy who's going to make an impact soon. Tyler O'Neill, who we saw in the fall league a couple of years, they got in a trade, has got good power. So they have some nice depth to it. I like Dakota Hudson, the first-round pick they got a couple of years ago. We're seeing Mercado's a guy who's really raised his profile. He was drafted out of high school and got $1.5 million bonus basically because of his defensive prowess at short. Never really hit. They made him a full-time center fielder this year, and the bats started to take off. I don't think he's ever going to be like a big-time middle-of-the-order guy, but his career is suddenly looking up after looking like he might not hit enough to really come close to the majors a couple of years ago.
That's a part of scouting and how it continues to evolve, where you used to look to one tool and try to project another. As a young player, you saw that speed, and they knew that there were several positions that he could play, and he was playing shortstop.
And it seems like having a little bit less defensive responsibility maybe made him, I don't know if it's whether he focused more on the bat or he's just a little bit more relaxed because you didn't have as much on the plate. But he started to hit better this year.
Ball to 2 strikes. Runner goes. Throw down to second is not in time. It's the stolen base for Nicky Lopez on the strikeout by Mercado. 2 away here in the 8th.
Lopez is just a smart player. And I said it before about Creighton players. They're just very fundamentally sound. He doesn't try to do too much at the plate. He's not a blazer, but he knows how to pick his spots.
Well, and I love right there how he wasn't looking back at all. Just had his head fixed right on the back corner of second base. See that all the time in non-hit and run straight steal situations where the runner keeps looking back to see where the throw is, and I don't care what anyone says, that takes time.
And that could have made the difference on that one. That was
Absolutely.
close enough. If he lost even a half second, he's out.
So now Michael O'Neill with the potential go-ahead run in scoring position. 2 outs here in the bottom of the 8th inning. Swing and a miss, strike 1. Seen some good at-bats from O'Neill. Lined out in the first, grounded into a double play in the 4th. Retired twice in the 4th, in fact, when they sent 11 men to the plate, but a double in the 6th. Warren deals in 0-1 inside, a ball and a strike.
Well, that had some late sailing action on it. Sometimes you throw a pitch and you go, geez, I'd like to know how to repeat that. Sometimes the ball is wound a little differently and just kind of takes off like almost like a wiffle ball or like a scuffed ball.
He was a nice find for the Mariners. 23rd rounder out of Ashland University in Ohio, but he's been consistently 95, 96 tonight with life on that fastball. Some nice run to it, and he has some depth to his curveball as well.
Ball and a strike to O'Neill. Warren deals. Shot down the right field line, but into the seats. 1-2.
That looked like a cutter slider there. That was a little bit harder than a curveball.
Trying to dump that into right field. Get that go-ahead run.
Back and forth we go in the military appreciation game. 10-10, bottom of the 8th. A 1-2 from Warren to O'Neill. Swing and a miss, strike 3. And we will go to the 9th. Tied up at 10 here in Surprise.
During baseball games, having the association come out and have booths and everybody in the park wearing purple, and I'm sitting in center field looking at the stands and it's all purple, and I go, you know what? This is a change. This is what I set out to accomplish. So it's been amazing, ton of growth, and it's humbling for sure.
Had a chance to talk with Braden Bishop before this game, the number 5 prospect in the Seattle Mariners organization. For Mom is stitched into his glove in purple, the official color of Alzheimer's awareness. The 24-year-old started the For Mom Foundation after his mom, Susie, was diagnosed with Alzheimer's in 2014 when she was only 54 years old. Again, we'll see an extended interview throughout the week on MLB Network, and depending on whether or not his Peoria Javelinas are in the championship game, we might even see him again next week. But for right now, it's a 10-10 ball game as we move to the 9th inning. Josh Lucas in to pitch for Surprise as he faces 9-1-2 for Peoria. Urias, Davis, and Chavis due up here in this 9th inning. And again, our thanks to both the Arizona Fall League for making sure we were able to set up that interview, and a huge thanks to Braden Bishop for sharing his story with us. It's obviously something that's near and dear to his heart. Again, I had asked him, after he learned about the news, not just to get involved somehow, but to go so far as to start his own foundation, as this one is ripped to left field, and it'll one-hop over the wall. Urias with a double to lead things off here in the 9th inning. And without giving too much away, obviously a guy who likes to have fun on the baseball field, but also has baseball certainly in the correct perspective with what's going on in his personal life.
Well, you just have to figure the more innings that Peoria is allowed, it's really playing into their hands with the explosiveness of their lineup, and that's Urias, the number 9 hitter, and probably the best pure hitter in the Fall League, just ripping one over the wall and left.
This is Jonathan Davis, last time up in the 8th inning, a 2-run home run, squares to bunt, pulls it back, ball and no strikes. Double in the 2nd, the 2-run shot in the 8th, part of that 4-run 8th inning.
This is when you don't want to be too fine when you're bunting and not jab at it. Make the third baseman field the ball if you can.
Squares to bunt, lays it down. Lucas Fields looks at third, but gets Davis at first for out number 1. A sacrifice to move the potential go-ahead run 90 feet away from home.
I don't love the bunt there, to be honest with you. You've got a guy on second who's already in scoring position who can run. Chavis and Riley, while they're good power hitters, they do strike out some. Chavis has already struck out once tonight. I would have just taken my chances. I don't want to give up outs with that lineup.
I completely agree. Now this is clearly the best offensive lineup in the fall league, and with the guy in scoring position, why not take 3 shots at it? And now you've got 2.
And Davis has swung the bat nice tonight too. It wasn't like he was struggling tonight. He homered his last time up. He hit a double in the second inning. We'll see if they can get the run in here.
They play the infield in as that one misses low and away to Chavis. 4 runs in the second inning, but they opened up a 6-0 lead, did Peoria, but 7 in the bottom of the 4th. 3 more in the 5th made it 10-6. Before Peoria ultimately tied the game with 4 of their own runs in the 8th inning. No surprise to see with these two teams. Depending on how you slice it, you can make a strong case the 2 best offenses in this Arizona Fall League. 10-10 here in the 9th. Again, if we do get to extra innings, and that's certainly a possibility. Jim, I think you mentioned it before. They'll start with a runner on second in the 10th and 11th innings, and that's all we'd play is 11. The Robinson rule assures us of that. So another one of those experimental things, starting with a runner at second. A little different than the WBC, where it was runners on first and second starting in the 11th inning. So they'll start with a runner on at second in the 10th if we get there. 3-1. Ball 4, first and third.
Just setting up the double play, figuring that Lucas has the ability to pitch down in the strike zone. I was a little concerned with a couple of those sliders that were right around the dirt. And Deeney seems like the type of catcher that is going to be able to smother a breaking ball with a runner on third base. Now Riley, although a big prospect in the Braves organization, has had some difficulty with the fastball upstairs tonight, but I don't think Lucas wants to worry about that.
To second, comes home on the double clutch. In there safely is Urias. Just that extra split second for Sosa to get the ball out of his glove. Softly hit, brought him in, his momentum coming toward home, but he couldn't get it out of his glove. And Urias scores to give Peoria an 11-10 lead.
Well, here's a beautiful look at it right here. He's going completely on contact and taking his chances. He got a good jump, thinking about the back corner, trying to sneak in there. Would have meant a perfect throw. Deeney's up in front of the plate.
Do you think the way that play unfolded that Lucas was in his way a little bit too, that's why he double clutched? Because if he had come up cleanly and thrown, he might have hit Lucas because of Lucas going for the grounder, took him right in the path.
He has to throw it and just rely on Lucas to get down. That is a do or die ball game type of play.
Dribbler to first as Paul steps on the bag. Both runners move up. Now 2 in scoring position and 2 outs in the 9th inning. But Urias touches home plate to give Peoria an 11-10 lead. One more look at the RBI.
I think, yeah, Lucas is getting down. There's no worry about that. It's just not. It would have taken just a complete clean play.
Lucas a big boy, 6'6". So when he was standing there, to have Sosa try to look around him to find the target of Deeney at home plate. Jim, I'm with you. You wonder how much that may have played into it. Here's Acuna. Wide of the bag, 0-1.
Not going to complain about getting to see Acuna hit again. I was worried they might intentionally walk him and deprive us of that opportunity, but they're going to go after him.
A couple of home runs tonight for Acuna. A solo shot in the second, 2-run homer in the third. And a ground ball up the middle, slow roller. It's Lopez. Out number 3. Sosa Surprise. They have come back in this one already. They're racing a 6-run deficit at one point. They're down by 1 heading to the last of the 9th.
The meats.
Fun game back and forth here in Surprise. Paul Severino, Joe McGray, Jim Callis of MLBpipeline.com. The 2017 Military Appreciation Game here in the Arizona Fall League. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. It was 6-0 Peoria. It was 10-6 Surprise. It was 10-10. And now Peoria leads it by a run in the bottom of the 9th inning. Kevin Padlow to lead things off against Warren, who's into his 2nd inning of work. Padlow followed by Perez and Hernandez.
Well, Warren looked pretty nifty in the 8th. Let's see how he does in the 9th. That 27th out is a completely different ball game.
Strike there to Padlow, who struck out in the 1st, walked and scored in the 4th when 11 men came to the plate.
It's a high breaking ball and gets it right at the chin of the catcher's mask and where the umpire sits as they're trying to bring that strike zone up. He normally will get the call, but it just never looks like a good pitch to the hitter.
Oh, 2 from Warren, who struck out the last 2 that he faced in the 8th, as this one will find the seats down the right field line. Still 0-2. Warren started the 8th inning, got a fly ball to center field, a single and stolen base by Nicky Lopez. But again, he was stranded after those back-to-back strikeouts. So Warren works here to 3, 4, and 5 in the 9th. Padlow stays alive.
Yeah, that's kind of like the one he took for a strike, thinking that I better not try to do that again. Not going to go down looking.
They've got a piece of Jackson. Not nearly as much of a piece as Deeney got before on a foul ball at home plate. Called strike 3, 1 away in the 9th. 3 consecutive strikeouts for Warren out of the Peoria bullpen.
Well, he went to the high slider and another one there that, again, it does not to Padlow look like a strike. As you see, it comes across just kind of below the sweep of that R and raise. Plus, it's on the outer third of the plate. Just not a pitch that looked good at all. There's a beauty.
0-1 to the DH, Yanio Perez.
I think those couple of sliders he threw there to Podlo gave him a little bit more confidence, because that first one was outstanding. It looks like he's trying to sniff the finish line here, so this is impressive for Warren.
They're going to call the high strike. He's going to keep throwing it. So.
Yep. Like to see that a guy like this is not shying away from this kind of moment.
Guy who's transitioning to the bullpen over the last couple of years at a 3.17 ERA as a starter in 2016, 3.06 with 74 strikeouts in 64 2/3 innings as a reliever in 2017. Once again misses just outside to Perez.
There was one where he got a little greedy. He's thrown some good sliders, and he tried to throw one better than the ones before, and sometimes those can turn into bad fastballs that just hang, the cement mixers.
Swing and a miss, strike three. May have gotten a piece of it, but Jackson holds on for out number 2 here in the 9th inning. 4 strikeouts for Warren.
It was good to see him come back and relax and just get his arm out front to where he could just slice the outer third of the ball and get that good late break on the slider. Not the torpedo one that just spins. He's getting after it.
Elier Hernandez takes a called strike.
He's been doing this all fall. He's now pitched 10 innings, has yet to give up a run.
Jinx.
Strikeouts. Yeah, I know. I want to see the courtesy runner or the runner on second base rule, whatever they call that in action, I guess.
I just like the way he's going about it. You know, there are some guys that pitch well when they're behind, and then there's others that pitch well when they're ahead, that really compete.
And I like the pace too. I don't even think the clock's a consideration.
No,
He's just getting the ball, locking in, boom.
That's what we were talking about earlier. If you are very decisive and you're committed to what you want to do, that clock should never be an issue.
Surprise down to their last strike. Swing and a miss. 5 strikeouts in 2 innings of work for Warren. He strikes out the side in the 9th inning. Ronald Acuna and the Peoria Javelinas eke out an 11-10 victory tonight in Surprise and get a little bit closer to solidifying their spot in next week's championship game in Scottsdale. We talked about it coming into this one. These are 2 of the more high-powered offenses in the Arizona Fall League. They did not disappoint.
Not at all. We saw Ronald Acuna, maybe the best prospect in baseball, hit 2 home runs. Did see some interesting pitching, not just Warren there at the end. I was thrilled with Andres Munoz throwing 102 with a nasty wipeout slider as well. Got to see a lot of the best hitters in the league on display tonight.
Yeah, and also we talked to Luis Salazar, the manager for Peoria, and he said we have an outstanding lineup, the best in the fall league, and we score 8-9 runs a night, and tonight they got 10. They just never feel with the sticks that they have that they're out of a ball game, and it looked like they were, and they came back and won it.
And a team that has a wide margin over the second best home run hitting team in the Arizona Fall League. The Peoria Javelinas tack on 3 more home runs, all part of an 11-10 victory here tonight. The Arizona Fall League season concludes next weekend with the AFL Championship game. We'll be right back here with Joe and Jim. Coverage from Scottsdale Stadium next Saturday, 3 Eastern Time. For Joe McGrain and Jim Callis, our entire crew here in Arizona, I'm Paul Severino saying goodbye from Surprise. Thanks so much for watching the 2017 AFL Military Appreciation Game. We hope you enjoyed it. We'll see you next week.
Hey there, I'm Dan Plesac, and this is MLB Network Breakdown. This week, we take a look back at all the best breakdowns and analysis